Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. Thanks so much for tuning in this Monday morning. I'm Rahul.
Good morning. I'm Priyanshi. Up ahead, all the developments in Pakistan. Also, incidents of violence on Ram Navami. All that and more coming up. First, a look at the top headlines.
Two groups of students clashed in JNU campus in Delhi, allegedly over meat being served in the hostel canteen on Ram Navami. While ABVP claims it was over a pooja being organized, the Delhi police has registered an FIR against the ABVP students.
And communal clashes in several states on Ram Navami after religious processions through small towns led to stone pelting, violence and clashes.
Amid hectic diplomatic activity with growing pressure from the West on India's oil deals with Russia, Prime Minister Modi to hold a virtual meeting with US President Joe Biden tonight.
Pakistan's National Assembly will vote today to elect a new Prime Minister after Imran Khan's government lost the no confidence motion. PMLN President Shehbaz Sharif is all set to become the next Prime Minister.
Political parties, especially from the south, push back against Home Minister Amit Shah's Hindi pitch. Telangana Minister KTR calls it language chauvinism. Congress's Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary calls it cultural terrorism.
Andhra Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy revamps his cabinet, gives more representation to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward castes and minorities. New cabinet to be sworn in today.
Alright, our top story now. And several students were injured in Delhi's Jawaharlal Nehru University after violence broke out on campus on Sunday evening.
The JNU Students' Union alleged that the ABVP, which is the student wing of BJP members, assaulted the mess secretary over serving non-vegetarian food in hostel mess and stopped non-vegetarian food from being served in the Kaveri hospital. Whereas ABVP in a statement claimed that members of the left organizations tried to stop a pooja from being organized in the hostel.
Now, the JNU students carried out late-night march to the Vasankund police station demanding action against the attackers, and the Delhi police has registered an FIR in this case. Let's take a look at what the students had to say.
संडे के दिन में जेएनयू के हर हॉस्टल में वेज और नॉन वेज दोनों खाना बनता है, तो वेज खाना तो बन गया, लेकिन नॉन वेज खाना को वो लोग वापस भिजवा दिए, तो आधे लोगों से ज्यादा का खाना ही नहीं बना था। तो उसी समय लेटर लिखा गया कि एबीवीपी ने ऐसा किया है। मिस वार्डन को भी एक लेटर दिया गया कि आप बाकी लोगों का खाना अरेंज करवाइए, लेकिन वो खाना अरेंज नहीं करवाया गया। जब 7:30 बजे जब सारे स्टूडेंट गैदर होकर बोलने लगे कि खाना कहाँ है, तो एबीवीपी के लोग आके वहाँ भी हंगामा शुरू कर दिए कि हमारी मर्जी है, हम नहीं खाते वेज, तो आज कोई भी नॉन वेज नहीं खाएगा, इस तरीके की बातें करने लगे। और उसके बाद वो लोग बेसिकली धक्का मुक्की करने लगे। उसमें ही उन्होंने मुझे पेट पे मारा, मेरा फोन लेके इसको तोड़ दिया। इसमें बहुत सारे फुटेजेस थे जिसमें वो मारपीट कर रहे थे, इसीलिए वो लोग तोड़े। मेरे बाइक जो बाहर रखा हुआ था हॉस्टल का, उसको भी तोड़ दिया गया।
वहाँ पर मेस के पीछे उन लोगों ने कोई हवन या पूजा रखा था, उससे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। वहाँ के उस छात्रावास के जो भी छात्र थे, जो भी स्टूडेंट थे, उनका ये मानना था कि आप कुछ भी करें, किसी का कोई रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट्स यहाँ पर हर्ट नहीं होगा। लेकिन उन लोगों का ये कहना था कि अगर हम यहाँ पर पूजा, एबीवीपी की तरफ जो लोग थे, उनका मानना था कि हम लोग यहाँ पर जब तक पूजा पाठ करेंगे या हवन करेंगे, इस मेस में नॉनवेज नहीं बन सकता है। उसी छात्रावास के कुछ छात्र ऐसे थे जिनका ये कहना था कि आप अपनी सारी चीजों को हमारे ऊपर इम्पोज नहीं कर सकते हैं।
फिलहाल सिचुएशन ये है कि वो लोग लगातार स्लोगनबाजी कर रहे हैं और ये कह रहे हैं कि भारत में जो रहना होगा जय श्री राम कहना होगा, और लगातार छात्रों पे मतलब उनको प्रोवोक किया जा रहा है। उन लोग को मारने के लिए लोग परेशान कर रहे हैं। लगातार पत्थरबाजी पुलिस के सामने भी चल ही रही है लगातार।
इसी कैंपस के कुछ उपद्रवी तत्व लेफ्ट और एनएसयूआई के समर्थन से ये लोग लगातार धमकियां देते आ रहे थे कि तुम्हारा पूजा नहीं होने देंगे, पूजा में बाधा डालेंगे। तो नहीं है, उसी मेस के प्रांगण में, मेस के अंदर इफ्तार की पार्टी चल रही है, इफ्तार का रोजा तोड़ रहे हैं मुस्लिम छात्र, और जस्ट एक कदम की दूरी पर पूजा हो रही है। तो जब कावेरी रेसिडेंट्स को कोई दिक्कत नहीं है तो ऐसे लेफ्ट और एनएसयूआई को सामाजिक सौहार्द बिगाड़ने की जो इनकी पराकाष्ठा रही है, तो इनको इस सामाजिक सौहार्द बना रहे, इससे दिक्कत क्यों है?
All right, so that's a look at what all the students there had to say. But let's now go across to Sukirti for more. And Sukirti, so a case has been filed, various claims being made by the students.
Well, yes, there are opposing claims from both of these sides, the JNU SU as well as the ABVP. But as far as the police case is concerned, the police has registered an FIR against students associated with the ABVP on the demands that have been made by the JNU SU students. However, another complaint is likely from the ABVP side as well against the JNU SU students. And this police complaint and police FIR comes after the late night protest march that was carried out by JNU students last night from their campus to the Vasant Kunj police station. A total of anywhere about 16 to 20 students have been injured so far. A cumulative figure on students injured on both sides. However, both of these groups claim that the number of injured students is higher. As of now, from what we know, there is no student who is seriously injured or is in any kind of danger. But yes, there are at least primary level injuries that the students have faced. And of course, this attack brings back memories of the kind of attack that had taken place at the JNU campus in January 2020, when the JNU SU president Oishi Ghosh had been severely attacked and had faced brutal head injuries. But till date, there have been no arrests in that case as well. But at least this time again, this row has erupted. Now, action from the police is awaited on whether anybody ends up getting arrested or not.
Could you also please tell us what is the situation on ground today, this morning, and what is expected today?
On ground today, it is likely that the students may carry out further protests. Both of these groups may carry out more protests demanding a solid action on ground in terms of the culprits being arrested, and also students demanding action from the JNU SU authorities. They've written to the Vice Chancellor that all of this violence took place yesterday and the people responsible should be held accountable. So whether both the college authorities and the police will be taking action or not, that is what everybody's eyes will be on.
Well, thanks Sukirti for getting us those details.
All right, moving on to other news now. And there were communal clashes in several states on the occasion of Ram Navami. That was yesterday in West Bengal, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh. All witnessed violence and clashes on Ram Navami.
In fact, violence broke out in Deoghar, Jharkhand after stones were pelted at a Ram Navami procession in Hirahi village. Reports say that dozens of vehicles were torched.
As well as in Khargaon, in Madhya Pradesh, curfew had to be imposed in 3 areas and section 144 in the entire city after the Ram Navami procession, and vehicles also set on fire. The police had to use tear gas to control the situation. Let's go across to Anurag for more. And Anurag, so these Ram Navami processions and violence in several parts of the country. Tell us more about the situation in Madhya Pradesh and Khargaon, and what is it like now?
Yes, Gandhi, in Khargaon, when the Ram Navami procession started from the Talab Chowk area, stones were allegedly pelted at the gathering, prompting the police to fire tear gas shells to control the situation. The procession was supposed to take a round of the Khargaon city, but it was abandoned midway after the violence. And the procession was crossing through an area with a heavy minority population when people from a community objected to the kind of songs playing from the loudspeakers in the procession, and then allegedly went on to pelt stones. You can see in those visuals even young people pelting stones and police firing tear gas shells. Many police personnel, including the superintendent of police, Siddharth Chaudhary, have been injured. He was hit on the legs. Some reports are saying it was a bullet injury, and some are saying it was with a stone, but it is not confirmed.
Okay, so you say, and let's just listen to what the police
had to say. He was taken to a hospital in a stretcher with a bleeding leg. And the police were making announcements in the night for, appealing people to stay indoors. And as of now, the situation is under control. But in the adjoining Badwani district also, in the communally sensitive Sendhwa town. Similar attack on Ram Navami procession was reported in Eidgah, Jogwara Road, when a procession of people was on the way to from Badgaon village to join the main Ram Navami procession in Sendhwa town. And there also incidents of face-off between the two communities were reported from other areas, including Jai Hind Chowk, Kranti Chowk, and around 5 to 7 people, including 2 cops, among them the inspector of the Sendhwa town was also hurt.
Well, thanks, Anurag, for those details. Let's also listen in to what the police had to say on this.
शहर में तालाब चौक और कुछ पॉइंट पे कर्फ्यू लगा दिया गया है और अभी शांति बनाए रखने के लिए अनिश्चितकालीन कर्फ्यू लगाया है।
पूरे शहर में लगा दिया है कि अभी कोई चिन्हित जगह पे गया है?
अभी तो चिन्हित जगह है, पूरे शहर में तो नहीं लगा है।
क्या आगे की स्थिति को देखते हो क्या पूरे शहर में लगा दिया है क्या?
हाँ, स्थिति जैसे भी निर्मित होगी पूरे शहर में लगा देंगे।
सर अभी क्या स्थिति लग रही है?
अभी तो जिधर खतरबाजी हो रही है, आगजनी हो गई है, इसलिए
पुलिस को आंसू गैस के गोले भी छोड़ना पड़ रहा है।
आंसू गैस के वो भी छोड़े हैं।
क्या अभी स्थिति का नियंत्रण बाहर है?
नियंत्रण में है, बाहर तो नहीं है, नियंत्रण में।
And after reports of stone pelting during a Ram Navami procession in Howrah city of West Bengal, the police have now deployed security to maintain peace in the area.
In a statement on Twitter, the police said to note that Howrah City Police is taking all sorts of action to maintain peace and tranquility. All are requested to show utmost restraint and discretion while posting anything on social media or spreading any fake news on today's Ram Navami rally related issues. Let's go across to Saurabh Gupta for more. And Saurabh, give us more details of what happened yesterday in Bengal, because you know the reports of violence during Ram Navami processions in several states and from West Bengal as well.
Well, you know, there seems to have been some sort of a violent incident in Shibpur area under the Shibpur police station in Howrah district or Howrah city. The Howrah City Police statement says that, you know, they've deployed security to maintain peace and tranquility in the area, but they've also warned people to not share any fake news related to the incident. Now, this comes in the wake of, BJP leader, BJP MLA and leader of opposition, Shubhendu Adhikari, alleging on Twitter that, you know, it was the police that apparently attacked the Ram Navami procession, saying that the police rained lathis on the procession participants. The police statement comes in the backdrop of that. In Bankura, in West Bengal, also there has been some reports of violence. The police reportedly have made arrests in that case, and it seems to be participants of the procession who've been arrested, is what the police seem to say. Initial reports suggest that. So we're still waiting for an official statement from the Bankura police. In Siliguri, though, in sharp contrast also, there has been a wonderful picture of, you know, communal harmony, where several Muslim youth have been seen distributing water bottles to Ram Navami procession participants. So, Bankura and Howrah seem to have reported some violent incidents as far as Ram Navami procession is concerned. And in Howrah, the police say that security is in place. In Bankura also, we have visuals where the police can be seen, having to resort to lathi charge to maintain peace. And obviously the details of who was leading the procession, how it happened, is still unclear, but at least arrests have been made in Bankura as well, is what we're being given to understand by local authorities.
And in an outreach on Ram Navami in West Bengal's Siliguri, Muslims were seen giving water to the passing Ram Navami procession.
There you can see the procession on Sunday, and Muslims, they are gathered on the side of the road to hand out water bottles. So good, Priyanshi, to see that it wasn't all, violence and clashes, and there were some efforts at outreach as well. Now, the big story today, Pakistan's National Assembly will vote today in a special session to elect a new Prime Minister after Imran Khan's government lost the no confidence motion.
Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz PMLN President Shehbaz Sharif, who is currently the leader of opposition in the National Assembly, is all set to become the next Prime Minister.
The Imran Khan government was ousted from power at the end of high political drama in the National Assembly, with the Supreme Court having earlier overturned the decision of the Deputy Speaker to reject the opposition-sponsored no-confidence motion against the ruling coalition. And in his first tweet after losing, his first comments really after being ousted from power, Imran Khan tweeted, "Pakistan became an independent state in 1947. But the freedom struggle begins again today against a foreign conspiracy of regime change. It is always the people of the country who defend the sovereignty and democracy." Remember, Imran Khan has been claiming a foreign hand that is behind his government falling and pushing in a new government, and he's even called it a foreign government that will be put in place. So Imran Khan there, those are his first comments after his government was ousted. And from Pakistan now to Sri Lanka, another neighbouring country that's seeing a lot of crisis and trouble. Protests are gathering pace in Sri Lanka as food, fuel and medicine shortages continue to plague the nation.
And amid the ongoing crisis, a high-level delegation is all set to meet the IMF virtually today to discuss Lanka's mounting financial challenges. 40,000 metric tons of diesel has reached Sri Lankan shores, but citizens there continue to wait in queues for over 2 hours. NDTV's Shrija reports from Ground Zero.
We are right now reporting outside the Lanka filling station. Now this is the queue that we are witnessing. Now even though the second shipment from Sikka, India has arrived on the Sri Lankan shores. We have also in fact reported from the Colombo port, where we did see the ship carrying, Mayawati ship carrying nearly 40,000 metric tons of diesel have arrived here in Sri Lankan shores. But however, there is a clear short supply of petrol at all the filling stations. If I could go across to one person here who's joining us, how long, for how many days you've been facing a similar issue like this?
I think last month, since last month we are facing this issue.
Okay.
And but still government not take any action for this.
Okay, now for you as a common man, how many hours do you spend like this? Waiting at the
sometimes actually we are spending like 1 hour to get the fuel.
Okay.
To get the diesel, some people are waiting like 2-3 days. If I get the personally this actually it's affected a lot as a common man. Okay. And if you look at the normal people in here, they are struggling with the fuel, electricity and all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. The situation is only worsening by the day. Of course, like the citizen here pointed out, saying that, some people continue to wait for 2 to 3 days together as for diesel is concerned. Now, though the consignment is reached from India, we see the docking has not happened just yet. And also the unloading of the fuel is yet to take place. Now, that is the protocol which is followed by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. But on ground scenario, if I really have to talk about, this is the long serpentine queue that we are witnessing. It's over, in fact, it's a pretty long queue. There are over at least 70 to 80 vehicles that are lined up here. And this is a similar situation across every district here in Sri Lanka, because there is clearly no respite for people here in Sri Lanka, because they spend hours together, not just for fuel, but also even for essential commodities and cooking gas, at the right before cooking gas distribution centers. In Colombo with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
Moving on to another top story. Amid hectic diplomatic activity with growing pressure from the West on India's oil deals with Russia, Prime Minister Modi will virtually meet with US President Joe Biden today.
This ahead of the 2+2 dialogue between India and the United States, which will be led by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar, as well as their US counterpart, Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Well, let's go across to Sunil Prabhu now for more. And Sunil, so this virtual meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi comes at a time, as we mentioned, when there's a lot of pressure on India vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine.
That's right, Gargi. Definitely in the backdrop of what's happening between India and US, as well as the entire Ukraine crisis, this will definitely be uppermost in the minds of both President Biden as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi when they hold this virtual meeting this evening. It's in that backdrop that you know already that there are discussions taking place on other specific issues apart from defense cooperation. The 2+2 talks are there. Foreign Minister Jaishankar as well as Defense Minister Rajnath Singh are there to meet their counterparts. And it's in this entire context, not only India's continued position of remaining neutral and not supporting the American initiative against Russia will definitely come up. There are, of course, other issues like climate, the global economy, Asia Pacific, which will also be taken up. But definitely, this is something that will definitely be touched upon between both President Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi this evening.
COVID-19 booster shots have started rolling out for all adults in India. That's for anyone over the age of 18 who took their second dose at least 9 months ago.
And Covishield and Covaxin prices have also been reduced for private hospitals on Saturday in a big relief to those seeking vaccinations, but the slashed prices were not always reflected on the ground. Here's a report.
For 58-year-old Rekha Kalra, a teacher with comorbidities, the priority for Sunday was to get her booster vaccine. Even though the price of the Covaxin and Covishield vaccines has been slashed to Rs 225 a dose, Rekha had to pay much more as hospitals are charging the old rate for stocks purchased at a higher rate. But nothing could dampen her relief at finally getting a precaution dose.
आई एम अ टीचर तो मैं बहुत देर से वेट कर रही थी कि ये खुल जाए सो दैट मेरे को बूस्टर डोज की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत थी. मैं स्कूल में टीचर हूँ तो मुझे बच्चों के साथ इंटरेक्ट करना पड़ता है जी और फिर रिस्क थोड़ा बढ़ जाता है. हाँ बिल्कुल वेरी रिस्की.
In Guwahati, people queued up since morning.
Rates have been revised, but I think there was some confusion yesterday, which I read that it was 225 rupees, but now they have charged me 150 rupees extra for service charges.
एक्चुअली में प्रिकॉशन के हिसाब से बूस्टर डोज ले क्योंकि अभी ओमिक्रॉन के बाद में और भी नया वेरिएशन आया है तो इसलिए हम लोग अपना सेफ्टी के लिए इसको ले रहे हैं ताकि और हम लोग कहीं भी बाहर आना जाना कर सकें इजीली हम लोग कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो.
In Chennai, Tamil Selvi, a mother of two, was among the first to take the paid booster dose.
நல்லா ஃபீல் பண்ணுறேன் சார். நோய் வராமல் தடுக்கிறதுக்கு நல்லா ஃப்ரீயாக ஃபீல் பண்ணுறேன் சார். நல்லா நிறைய பேர் கஷ்டப்படுறாங்க அதனால் ஃப்ரீயாக படுறது ரொம்ப நல்லது.
Not far away, Pachamma, a flower seller, says she'll be skipping the paid booster dose. She earns around 300 rupees a day. With 6 members in a family, all of whom were hit with a loss of income during the last 2 lockdowns, she just can't afford it.
நம்மளே உழுந்தவங்க அப்படியே தான் இருக்கிறாங்க. நிம்மதி இருந்துக்க முடியாம விட்டுருவாங்க. வீட்டில் 4 பேர் இருக்கிறவங்களே அந்த இந்த ஊசியில் இருக்கிற ஊசியே போட மாட்டாங்க. காசு கொடுத்து போகிறதே ஒரு 2 பேர் ஒரு பேர் தான் போட முடியும். 6 பேர் மொத்தமாக போட முடியாது. இருக்கப்பட்டவங்க போட்டுருவாங்க.
Hospitals say they will comply with the new prices soon.
The government has put a cap and I'm sure all the private sector hospitals will abide by it. Probably it will roll out in a few days.
While the precautionary dose will give that extra protection from the virus, the big question is the government leaving the poor to fend for themselves. Many have even suggested the idea of tapping into PM Cares Fund. With Akshay Dongre and Ratnadeep Chaudhary, in Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
And news now from Andhra Pradesh, where Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, keeping his promise made in June 2019 of revamping his cabinet halfway through his tenure, has reconstituted it.
In fact, the newly formed cabinet has a mixture of senior and experienced leaders as well as fresh and young faces for a balanced governance. There's also a big representation of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward castes and minorities.
And in other news, there's been a pushback, particularly by political leaders from South India against Home Minister Amit Shah's Hindi page, where he said that Hindi should be an alternative to English and not the regional language.
In fact, Telangana Minister K.T. Ramarao has called it language chauvinism, and Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary from West Bengal has called it cultural terrorism. Here's the report.
Telangana Minister K.T. Ramarao says it is language chauvinism on the part of Union Home Minister Amit Shah to advocate Hindi as an alternative to English and would boomerang. In a tweet, KTR, as he is popularly known, said, "Why don't we let people of our grand nation decide what to eat, what to wear, who to pray to and what language to speak?" Adding, to impose Hindi and dis-English will be a great disservice to the youngsters of this nation who have global aspirations. Amit Shah had said at a meeting of the Parliamentary Official Language Committee that states should communicate with each other in Hindi rather than in English. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has warned that a push to impose Hindi will destroy India's integrity.
Anybody who tells you that you have to go to a three-language formula first is basically just got, fundamental flaw in the logic. Because why should I have a three-language formula? What does three-language mean? It says you in Tamil Nadu learn Tamil plus English plus Hindi. And the usual retort is the third language can be used to communicate within India. But Hindi is not intrinsic to at least 60-70% of the country.
A sentiment echoed by the Congress in West Bengal as well.
सारे हिंदुस्तान में कितने लोग हिंदी कहते हैं और कितने लोग हिंदी ना कहते, इसको सारे आंकड़ा निकाले जाए, आपको पता चलेगा 40 के ज्यादा कुछ लोग हिंदी कहते हैं, बाकी हिंदी नहीं बोलते हैं. तो ये कल्चरल टेररिज्म लगता है मेरे लिए.
Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said, India is a country which is known for its unity in diversity. The Sangh Parivar's agenda is not to recognize diversity and federalism of our country. It's part of their agenda to weaken the regional languages. Meanwhile, a social media post by music composer A.R. Rahman has gone viral, in which he has quoted a famous Tamil poet saying, "Beloved Tamil is the root of our existence." Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
All right, so South states are pushing back at Amit Shah's statement there on Hindi. And with that, time for us to slip into a short break.
BSP Chief Mayawati lashed out at Congress's Rahul Gandhi. We'll get you the details on the other side. Welcome back. BSP Chief Mayawati on Sunday lashed out at Congress's Rahul Gandhi over his comment that she had spurned the party's overtures for an alliance in the UP Assembly election. She said Rahul Gandhi can't set his own house in order but is taking pot shots at the BSP.
Insisting what Mr. Gandhi said is absolutely false, Mayawati insisted that the loss of UP election should be the focus now than these petty things. Alok Pandey reports.
हमने मायावती जी को मैसेज दिया, अलायंस करिए, चीफ मिनिस्टर बनिए, बात तक नहीं की.
ये बात पूर्णतः गलत है, तथ्यहीन है, अर्थात इसमें रत्ती भर भी कोई सच्चाई नहीं है. वैसे भी कांग्रेस को विपक्षी पार्टियों में से खासकर बीएसपी है उसके नेतृत्व के बारे में कोई भी टीका टिप्पणी करने से पहले 100 बार सोच समझकर लेना चाहिए।
Rahul Gandhi versus BSP chief Mayawati over an alliance for UP that wasn't. This means more bad news for opposition unity with just 2 years to go for the crucial 2024 national election where UP matters most with its 80 Lok Sabha seats. On Friday, Rahul Gandhi lashed out at the BSP chief, alleging Mayawati gave a clear passage to the BJP in UP because of the CBI, the ED and Pegasus. Today, Mayawati hit back, saying Mr. Gandhi cannot set his own house in order, but is taking pot shots at the BSP.
कांची राम जी ने, रिस्पेक्ट करता हूं मैं, खून पसीना देके दलित आवाज जो थी उत्तर प्रदेश की उसको जगाया। आज मायावती जी कहती हैं कि मैं उस आवाज के लिए लड़ूंगी नहीं। पेगासस, सीबीआई, ईडी ये पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम को कंट्रोल करते हैं।
जबकि इनको ये मालूम होना चाहिए कि इन सब से जुड़े मामले हमने केंद्र में रही किसी भी पार्टी की सरकार की मदद से नहीं बल्कि सभी सरकारों के खिलाफ जाकर माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जीते हैं। कांग्रेस पार्टी सत्ता में रहते हुए वह सत्ता से बाहर हो जाने के लंबे समय बाद अब तक बीजेपी व आरएसएस कंपनी से जी जान से लड़ते हुए हमें कहीं नजर नहीं आती है।
Both the Congress and the BSP put up their worst ever performance in UP this election. The Congress won just 2 seats and its vote share came down 3 times. The BSP is down to just 1 seat and its vote share has halved. It is Akhilesh Yadav's Samajwadi Party that refused to ally with either the Congress or the BSP that emerged as challenger-in-chief to the BJP in the state election, but fell short of victory by a big margin. So the question then is, what happens in the lead-up to the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, going by the kind of statements and potshots being taken by opposition parties at each other? It does seem like advantage BJP at the moment. In Lucknow, Alok Pandey, NDTV.
All right, well, let's shift focus from politics now to business news. An electric vehicle retail sales has seen a 3-fold jump in India in the last fiscal.
Sakshi Bajaj reports on the highlights and concerns. While a further uptick for the sector is anticipated, battery availability remains a pain point.
Electric vehicle retail sales witnessed over a 3-fold jump in the country last fiscal, with sales hitting 4.29 lakh units versus 1.35 lakh units the previous fiscal, as per the Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations of India. If we now look at the data just on a monthly basis, electric two-wheeler sales led the spike by witnessing a jump of 53%, and the sale of electric passenger vehicles have grown by 51% in the month of March. However, what has witnessed a decline was the sale of electric commercial vehicles, which fell by 27%. The Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations of India told NDTV that within the next couple of months, new launches in the two-wheeler segment from legacy players are expected, and this could help boost electric vehicle sales further. However, he also mentioned the availability of batteries remains a concern, as demand exists, but companies are not being able to scale up production to meet that demand, which primarily comes from Chinese firms. Speaking on the future of electric vehicles in the country, Director General of Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India told NDTV that the electric vehicle industry will go through an evolutionary process in India and things will stabilize in due course.
The big story today will be Pakistan, where the National Assembly will vote today in a special session to elect a new Prime Minister after Imran Khan's government lost the no-confidence motion. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz President Shehbaz Sharif, who is currently the leader of the opposition in the National Assembly, is all set to become the next Prime Minister. The Imran Khan government was ousted from power in Pakistan at the end of high political drama in the National Assembly, with the Supreme Court having earlier overturned the decision of the Deputy Speaker to reject the opposition-sponsored no-confidence motion against the ruling coalition. That was finally, that no-trust vote took place on Saturday night, and there you can see Shehbaz Sharif, who is slated to become the next Prime Minister. He even tweeted special thanks to media, civil society, my lawyers, my Qaid Nawaz Sharif, and then he named several leaders, including Bilawal Bhutto, who helped him, and says that leaders and workers of all political parties were standing up for the constitution. Now, in his first comments after losing, Imran Khan tweeted that Pakistan became an independent state in 1947. But the freedom struggle begins again today against a foreign conspiracy of regime change. It is always the people of the country who defend their sovereignty and democracy. He also held a massive protest yesterday. PTI members, they're holding a massive protest yesterday in Pakistan. And as the country experiences a very hot April, forest fires have begun, and a massive forest fire has broken out in Uttarakhand near Tiwad village, and a massive fire break has broken out. As we know, every summer there are forest fires that break out in the hill state, and the first of this summer season, as North is experiencing a sweltering April, and there you can see a massive fire has broken out in Tehri Garhwal. In other news, the cable cars collided in Jharkhand's Deoghar, and an army chopper had to help in the rescue operation after this accident, in which many people remained stranded for a very long duration in their cable cars. There you can see the army chopper that helped with the rescue operations. Two cable cars collided, leading to this accident. Welcome back. There were communal clashes in several states on Ram Navami, which was celebrated on Sunday in West Bengal, Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh. They all witnessed violence and clashes when processions were taken out on Ram Navami. First in Jharkhand, where violence broke out in Lohar Daga. This is after a procession was taken out in certain areas, and then stones were pelted at the procession, and this led to clashes and vehicles being torched as well. And there you can see people also injured during those clashes. Then in Madhya Pradesh, in Khargon, a curfew was imposed in 3 areas in section 144 in the entire city after the Ram Navami procession there. Vehicles also set on fire, and police fired tear gas shells to control the situation. Some policemen were also injured, and when the Ram Navami procession had begun and was taken through certain areas, stones were allegedly pelted at the gathering, prompting the police to fire tear gas shells to control the situation. The procession was supposed to take a round of the city, but it was abandoned midway after the violence. Here's what the police had to say.
शहर में तालाब चौक और कुछ पॉइंट पे कर्फ्यू लगा दिया गया है, और अभी शांति बनाए रखने के लिए अनिश्चितकालीन कर्फ्यू लगाया है।
पूरे शहर में लगा दिया गया कि अभी कोई चिन्हित जगह पे गया है?
अभी तो चिन्हित जगह है, पूरे शहर में तो नहीं लगा है।
क्या आगे की स्थिति को देखते हो क्या पूरे शहर में लगा दिया जाएगा?
हाँ, स्थिति जैसे भी निर्मित होगी पूरे शहर में लगा देंगे।
सर, अभी क्या स्थिति लग रही है?
अभी तो जिधर खतरबाजी हो रही है, आगजनी हो गई है, इसलिए
पुलिस को आंसू गैस के गोले भी छोड़ना पड़ रहा है।
आंसू गैस के वो भी छोड़े हैं।
क्या अभी स्थिति का नियंत्रण बाहर है?
नियंत्रण में है, बाहर तो नहीं है, नियंत्रण में।
And after reports of stone pelting during a Ram Navami procession in Howrah city of West Bengal, the police have deployed security to maintain peace in the area. In fact, there was violence in several areas, and the Howrah city police also asking people to maintain peace and tranquility, and also restraint and discretion as well. Well, let's go across to Saurabh for more. And Saurabh, give us the details, because you also have West Bengal leader of opposition Suvendu Adhikari claiming that it was the police who attacked the procession during this Ram Navami procession that was taking place, and there was also violence in other areas as well.
Yes, I mean, that's Suvendu Adhikari's version, and of course the police saying that they have taken all steps necessary to maintain law and order. Now, one really has to understand who's saying what to understand how all of these incidents unfolded. But what we've been told so far is that at this point there is, of course, the situation is calm, and the police have deployed security, and the police have told. Announced on Twitter that people should use restraint and discretion, especially while sharing what they call fake news on Twitter. This comes after Shubhendu Adhikari's tweet. Now, obviously, in other parts of Bengal, there, for example, in Bankura, also a Ram Navami procession resulted in some sort of violence, and what we've been given to understand there, also the police had to use force to bring the situation under control. And apart from that, perhaps the good image that we've seen, or an example of communal harmony, is that in Siliguri, during a Ram Navami procession, there are images of a group of Muslim youth distributing water to Ram Navami procession participants. So, yes, two incidents mostly reported from Bankura and Howrah, and that example of also communal harmony from Siliguri as well in those pictures. So, obviously, at this point, Bengal is not the only state. There has been reports of incidents of violence from Madhya Pradesh, and also from states like Gujarat. In fact, there have been some reports of violence in Gujarat as well during Ram Navami procession. So, and we'll be bringing, sharing those details shortly as well. And that, of course, is the situation day after Ram Navami. Peaceful, but police say they've deployed security to maintain peace.
All right, so they're sort of reporting on the violence during the Ram Navami processions, and as he mentioned, in Gujarat as well, where there are reports that one person even died. So in several parts of the country, in Jharkhand, in Madhya Pradesh and in Bengal, violence taking place connected to the Ram Navami processions. But as sort of said, in Siliguri, there was a positive effort there, where you had Muslim groups there distributing water to those who were participating in the Ram Navami procession. News now from Andhra Pradesh, where Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, keeping his promise that he had made in June 2019 of revamping his cabinet halfway through his tenure, stuck to that, and he's reconstituted his cabinet. And the newly formed cabinet has a mixture of senior and experienced leaders as well as fresh and young faces for a balanced governance. Also, more representation to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward castes and minorities. Let's go across to Uma for more. And Uma, this new cabinet will be sworn in today.
Yes, indeed, Gargi. 11:30 in the morning is when the governor will start administering the oath of office to the 25 ministers. Interestingly, he has retained 11 ministers from the earlier cabinet that he had, though the word earlier was that he's going to remove or not include at least 90% of the old cabinet. One of the reasons could be that there is a lot of should I say, anger, resentment, disappointment at not being included. In fact, protests have broken out at multiple places in Andhra Pradesh, including at Guntur, also at Amalapuram, where in fact the national highway, they burnt tires, they burnt even a bike on the national highway. There are protests raised. There are even slogans raised against the Chief Minister and asking for the inclusion of their particular leader. In fact, the former Home Minister, Sucharita, who was a woman and a Dalit representative in the cabinet, and she was in fact the Home Minister earlier, she has also resigned as MLA, or rather her daughter has said that her mother is resigning as MLA, so she will continue in the YSRCP. So Jagan Mohan Reddy, while he had announced that he will form a brand new cabinet midway through his term, which of course got delayed by about 3 months, facing a lot of rebellion from within his party, from within the leaders itself, the MLAs who were disappointed that they are not being included. While they are talking about social engineering and saying that SC, ST, BC and minority have been accommodated to the extent of 67% representation, which perhaps has not happened earlier. But of course, the leaders who do believe that they have the kind of ground support are exerting and in a sense flexing their muscles. And one of the other criticisms that was, at least political experts were saying that Jagan Mohan Reddy may be inviting trouble by making new people as ministers, because in each of these districts, if you're going to have parallel sets of power emerging, there could be battles for political upmanship. And already Jagan Mohan Reddy seems to be facing some bit of that kind of a problem of rebellion from within his own MLAs.
All right, Uma, thanks so much for joining us with those details, so that your cabinet will be sworn in today morning. The Telangana Rashtriya Samiti leaders led by Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao will be holding a day-long dharna against the centre in the national capital today, demanding procurement of 15 lakh tons of parboiled rice from the state. This will be the TRS's first protest rally in Delhi after coming to power in Telangana in 2014. Let's go across to Sunil for more. And Sunil, this is especially important given that KCR has been looking to be more prominent on the national platform.
To start the protest in the Telangana Bhavan in New Delhi, setting the stage for highlighting what he calls the paddy procurement issue, where they have believed that parboiled rice for procurement from has not been taking place by FCI, and the centre has really not made any effort in attacking the central government. So it's in that backdrop that he starts his protest along with his daughter. They want to bring it to national prominence, and of course, as you rightly pointed out, sending a larger political message of unity of secular forces and playing a more prominent role at the national level.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us.